Now we start next solubility. In last two lectures, we finished the physical property of organic compounds, melting point and boiling point. Now next physical property, solubility of organic compounds. Solubility of organic compounds. When solute dissolves, when solute dissolves, when solute dissolves in a solvent, in a solvent, in a solvent, the solute particles, the particles or molecules get separated by solvent molecules, get separated by solvent molecules. Solvent molecules. Solubility म्हणजे काय? Solubility म्हणजे काय? When solute dissolves in solvent, the solute particles or molecules. आवाज म्यूट करा. एकनाथ. When solute dissolves in solvent, the solute particles or molecules get separated by the solvent molecules. And what happens? The solvent molecules occupy space between the solvent molecules occupy the space between the molecules of the solute ions of the solute or ions of the solute, and for this, or solubility of any compounds in solvent, for this the solvent molecules have to overcome the intermolecular forces or interionic forces. The energy required for this comes from the partial bond formed between the solute particles with that of solvent molecules. And the new attractive force Replace the old ones. Replace the old ones. This is about the solubility. For this, suppose we consider M plus and A minus. A minus. This is solute. M plus A minus आपण जनरल मॉलिक्यूल कन्सिडर केलेला आहे. Solute. Solute, and we add solvent is water, H2O. Water is solvent. Water is solvent. आता काय होईल? The A minus, this ion A minus, आपण जो सोल्यूट घेतलेला आहे M plus A minus. A minus, it forms bond with hydrogen H, partial positive charge. Hydrogen carries in water partial positive charge. Then oxygen, and again hydrogen. Negative charge. This is negative charge, and again it forms bond with the A minus. This is the water molecules. Again these forces continue with the solvents. H, partial positive, O, O minus, partial negative, and again H. It carry partial positive charge, hydrogen, partial positive charge, and bond with the negative charge, A minus ion. H, partial positive, O, negative, and H, partial positive charge, and they forms the bond with A minus, like this. Plus M plus A minus. This is the compound. Firstly, A minus forms bond with the positive part of the solvent, that is H plus ions. Now M plus this cation, it forms bond with now oxygen, O minus. O minus. O minus, partial negative, positive negative bond, and H plus, H plus. H plus, here partial positive, partial positive. M plus O minus, and H, partial positive charge and partial positive charge. O minus, negative charge, it forms H and H partial positive. This is the solute is ionic. The solute is ionic in nature. M plus A minus is the nature का ionic nature है. Ionic nature. And they generally dissolve in highly polar solvents. म्हणजे ionic compound आहेत. Example सांगता येईल ionic compounds. Example of ionic compounds.
NaCl. Sodium chloride.
NaCl is the ionic compound. When it dissolves in water, it's dissolved like this. And generally ionic compounds are dissolved in polar solvent. We consider now this is the ionic solute M plus A minus, consisting of cation M plus and anion is A minus. Ionic solute आहे त्याच्यामध्ये M plus positive charge and A minus is the negative charge, and such solute is added to polar solvent such as water. Water is a polar solvent and the positive charge H plus of water. Water's structure H, O and H. Hydrogen acquires positive charge, partial positive, oxygen partial negative, and hydrogen again partial positive. Partial positive. This is the polar solvents, and positively charged H plus of water attracts negatively charged anions A minus. म्हणून याच्यामध्ये काय बॉन्डिंग तयार झालेली आहे H आणि A minus हा बॉन्ड तयार झालेला आहे. पहिल्यांदा आपण काय दाखवलेलं आहे A minus H plus, A minus H plus, A minus H plus, A minus H plus like this. That means negative ion attracted towards the positive charge and positive or cations attracted towards the anions. Therefore, M plus is attracted towards oxygen atoms with a partial negative charge, and M plus carry the partial positive charge and attracts positively charged M plus of the solute. And the attractive force is even though very small. This attractive force is very small and large number of solvent molecules surround the anions. आपण जे काही solvent घेतलेलं आहे, they surrounds anions. या anions ला असे these are the surrounded as well as cations and solute, and total energy available enough to separate ions in the solute, and this process is called the solvation. And ह्या process ला काय म्हणलेलं आहे? Solvations. When solute dissolve in the solvent, that process is called the solvation process. And if solvent is water, then it is also called as hydration. Why this reaction is called hydration? कारण काय? The compounds or solute is dissolved in water. Water is the solvent and M plus and A minus is the solute. That's why this process is also called the hydration. लक्षात आलं first part. What is solubility? Two components, solute and solvent. Solute compound dissolves in solvent. त्याला काय म्हणायचं? Solubility. And the solute particles or molecules get separated by the solvent molecules. इथं आपण example दाखवलेलं आहे M plus and A minus. Now A minus is totally surrounded by the cations and M plus is surrounded by totally the anions. Example is water. Water is H plus here and O minus here. Like this, and the solvent molecules occupy the space between the molecules of solute or ions of the solute. Whatever the solvent molecules are present, they occupy the space. What are the empty spaces present in the solid particles? These occupy by the solvent molecules, and for this occupation or for the solvent molecules have to overcome the intermolecular forces or interionic forces. Here spaces occupy करण्यासाठी काय? Major requirement, intermolecular forces. They overcome the intermolecular forces or interionic forces, and the energy required for this comes from the partial bond formed between solute particles with that of solvent molecules. And what is the source? Energy source? The partial bond. आपण इथं dotted bonds दाखवलेले आहेत. It is partial bonds formed between the solute particles with that of solvent molecules and the new attractive forces replace the old ones. आणि याच्यामध्ये काय होईल, जे जुने फोर्सेस होतील replaces by the new forces. लक्षात आलं what is meant by the solubility? In order to dissolve in order to dissolve the ionic solids, the solvent molecules should have high polarity and high dielectric constant in non-polar solvents with low dielectric constant the ionic solutes are insoluble. The non-ionic solutes may be polar covalent or non-polar covalent. This polar solute dissolve dissolves in non-polar or weakly polar solvents. Like dissolves like is general guideline or general principle. Guideline. Example for this: methane dissolves in carbon tetrachloride because both are non-polar. But both of them are insoluble in polar solvents like water. Alcohols and carboxylic acid carboxylic acids are polar compounds, and hence they are soluble in water, and water can solvate the molecules of the solute through hydrogen bonding. Now next, in order to dissolve ionic solids, म्हणजे NaCl, NaBr, sodium iodide, lithium chlorides, potassium chloride, potassium bromide, हे सगळे काही ionic solvent. The solvent molecule should have high polarity. ह्याला काय polarity पाहिजे and high dielectric constant. The ionic compound should dissolve in polar solvent and the solvents which are high dielectric constant. And in non-polar solvents with low dielectric constant, the ionic solutes are insoluble. जर non-polar solvent असतील तर हे ionic compound should be insoluble in that solvent because they have low dielectric constant. म्हणजे ionic compound soluble होण्यासाठी काय criteria solvent साठी? High polarity and second high dielectric constant. ह्या दोन गोष्टी for ionic compound solubility. And the non-ionic solutes may be polar covalent or non-polar covalent. म्हणजे जे ionic solid दुसरे solid आहेत, these are two types. One is the polar covalent and second is the non-polar covalent compounds. And for the polar solute dissolves in non-polar or weakly polar solvents. म्हणजे they can polar ionic compounds, solid compounds, and they dissolve in weakly polar solvents. And the principle for the solubility is like dissolves like. हे लक्षात ठेवा, like dissolves like. म्हणजे पोलार कंपाऊंड असेल तर तो कशात डिझॉल्व्ह होईल? पोलार सॉल्व्हेंट्स, वॉटर, DMF, acetonitриdes. These are some examples of the polar solvents. And non-polar compounds dissolve in the non-polar solvents. And examples of carbon tetrachlorides. Example, methane dissolves in carbon tetrachloride. Why methane dissolves? Because both are the non-polar compounds. Methane and carbon tetrachloride, both solvents are the non-polars, and both of them are insoluble in polar solvents. And the polar compound, non-polar compound side, these are the insoluble in polar solvents. म्हणजे methane water मध्ये dissolve होणार नाही. किंवा naphthalene घेतलं, naphthalene not dissolve in the waters. These are the non-polar compounds, not dissolve in the polar solvents. Alcohols and carboxylic acids are polar compounds. Organic मधले alcohols and carboxylic acids are polar compounds, hence they are soluble in water. आणि दोन्ही काय पाण्यात dissolve होतील. And water can also solvate the molecules of solute through hydrogen bonding. Why? These are soluble in water because they forms the hydrogen bond, intermolecular hydrogen bond between alcohols and water molecules. That's why their solubility increases. आता हे examples बघा तुम्ही. ROH. This is the alcohol formula. Functional group काय याच्यात? Alcohol आहे. एक मिनिट, एक थोडं RO and H. In this, oxygen carry partial negative charge, hydrogen with the partial positive charge. Alcohol functional group चा काय फॉर्म्युला? R आणि OH functional group आहे. In this, oxygen carry partial negative charge and hydrogen carry the partial positive charge, and this hydrogen forms the intermolecular hydrogen bond with the water. OH partial positive, and this partial positive. And oxygen carry the partial negative charge. It have high electronegativity. That's why it attract the electron towards itself. म्हणजे oxygen negative charge आलेला आहे. Electronegativity of oxygen is more than the hydrogen, and it has strong capacity to withdraw the electron toward itself. So म्हणजे bonding electron जे pair आहे ते काय oxygen कडे जास्त attract होतील. That's why it's carry the partial negative charge, and they forms like this intermolecular hydrogen bond. And again these two hydrogen atoms. आता हे जे hydrogen atoms आहेत water चे, they forms bond with the oxygen atom of alcohol. O partial negative R. Here is the R and here is the H. And this hydrogen again, alcohol's जो hydrogen है, it again forms bond with the water molecules. Like this continuously hydrogen bonding takes place, and that's why alcohol and as well as the carboxylic acids are soluble in water. म्हणजे solubility लक्षात आलं. Solubility साठी what is the principle? Like dissolves like. म्हणजे जसं nature असेल तसं त्या solver मध्ये soluble होते. Polar compounds are soluble in the polar solvents, and non-polar compounds are soluble in the non-polar solvents. Ionic compounds are soluble in polar solvents having high polarity and high dielectric constant. म्हणजे त्यांचा dielectric constant काय पाहिजे? Just at that time the ionic compounds are dissolved in such polar solvent. Solubility मध्ये काही प्रॉब्लेम कोणाला? Solubility मध्ये काही प्रॉब्लेम? Solubility मध्ये काही प्रॉब्लेम? ओके, मग इथं आपण फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टी हा कन्सेप्ट संपवलेला आहे. वी आर स्टडी 3 फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज: मेल्टिंग पॉइंट, बॉइलिंग पॉइंट and solubility. Now next, electronic displacement. That means we start inductive effect, resonance effect, electromeric effect. Electronic displacement electronic displacement. First, functional group, the site of reaction. Functional group, the site of a reaction. The site of a reaction. Functional group, the site of a reaction. In generally, whenever any organic molecule react with the part of molecule which undergo actual changes, is the functional group of molecule. म्हणजे organic chemistry मध्ये it is totally related to the maximum reactions. त्याच्यामध्ये reactions आहेत आणि reactions where it possible it occurs at the functional group of the molecule. जिथं functional group आहे त्याच ठिकाणी ह्या reaction होतील. In general, whenever any organic molecule react the part of the molecule which actual undergoes the change undergoes the change is the functional group is the functional group of the molecule The functional group contains either electron rich groups, nucleophilic or atoms. Nucleophilic or atom or atoms which combine with electrophilic reagents or they contain electron deficient atoms or groups. What is functional group? It is the site of a reaction. Functional group मध्ये जिथं organic reactions carry होतात. This is the site of reactions. Whenever any organic molecule reacts, the part of the molecule which actual undergoes the change is the functional group of the molecule. म्हणजे organic chemistry मध्ये reaction कुठे होते? Part of the functional group changes आणि बाकीचं structure should be remain same. आता कुठले functional group आहेत? Alkanes, alkene, alkynes, then alkyl halides, alcohols, amines, amides, ester, acid, aldehyde, ketones, nitrohydrocarbons, phenols. All these are the functional groups present in the organic molecules and they undergo changes. For example, we consider one reaction between the alkene and HCl, CH2 double bond CH2. CH2 double bond CH2. What is the name of this compound? Is ethene and functional group is the carbon-carbon double bond. Ethene मध्ये कुठला functional group आहे? Carbon-carbon double bond, and when it reacts with the HBr, hydrogen bromide, HBr, hydrogen bromide. In this molecule, hydrogen carry the partial positive charge, and Br carry the partial negative charge, Br minus. Now, what is the product when the reaction takes place? They form this pi bond act as a nucleophile. त्यामध्ये जो pi bond आहे, it is a weak bond, easily break. It acts as nucleophile, that is minus negative charge, electron rich species. Nucleophile means the electron rich species, and it's donate this electron pair to the hydrogen atom, which carry partial positive charge and convert into CH3 and CH2 plus. One of the carbon atoms becomes now electron deficient. CH2 plus. याच्यातला कार्बन काय झालेला आता इलेक्ट्रॉन डिफिशियंट इट कॅरी द पार्शियल पॉझिटिव्ह चार्ज and this negative charge now Br minus इथं जो Br minus है it acts as nucleophile and it donates its electron pair to the CH2 and it forms ethyl bromide CH3 CH2 Br CH3 CH2 CH2 Br Br. This is the site of reaction. आली का लक्षात याच्यामध्ये कुठली साइट आहे कार्बन कार्बन डबल बॉन्ड is the functional group which acts as a site of reaction. Pi electron is a source of the electron. याच्यामध्ये जो दोन बॉन्ड आहेत one is the sigma bond and other is the pi bond and this pi bond is act as a source of electron and H plus is the electrophiles. This is one example. म्हणजे site of reaction लक्षात आली. It is a functional group where organic reaction is occur. म्हणजे ऑर्गॅनिक केमिस्ट्रीत रिएक्शन कुठे होते फंक्शनल ग्रुपला होते बाकी पार्ट सगळा जशाच तसा राहतो याच्यामध्ये सेकंड एक्झाम्पल दाखवता येईल तुम्हाला सेम रिएक्शन इथं टू सिमेट्रिकल होतं CH3 CH डबल बॉन्ड CH2 plus HBr plus HBr. Same example. Only one carbon atom will increase. First example is ethene, and now second example, we take the propene molecules. And what is the functional group in this carbon-carbon double bond? It donates its pi electron to H plus, and they generate again CH3, CH plus, CH plus, and CH3. And Br minus is donate its electron and they forms two bromopropane. CH3, CH, Br, Br and CH3. Only these two carbon atoms are take part in the reactions. That's why the carbon-carbon double bond is the functional group. And this methyl group is remain intact or inert. Methyl group this is called the site of reaction or functional group which take part in the reactions. Now, next example for this functional group site, benzene, nitration of benzene. We take next reaction is nitration of benzene, double bond, double bond, double bond. Three double bonds alternate, reacts with the nitronium ion, NO2 plus, NO2 plus, and pi electron donates to NO2 plus. They undergo aromatic electrophilic substitution reactions. And they forms the nitrobenzene. हे सगळे कार्बन सारखे त्याचा फर्स्ट याच्यात and they form nitrobenzene. Nitrobenzene. This is the second example. There are a lot of examples available for this. This is the functional group or site of reaction. Site of reaction म्हणजे काय? The reaction occur at the functional group that is called site of reaction and reaction takes place only on functional group. बाकी पार्ट वरती काही फरक करायचा नाही. पार्ट जशाच तसा ठेवून द्यायचा. जे रिएक्शन होते त्याच रिएक्शनला तिथं भाग घ्यायचा. Now reactivity. Next concept is the reactivity. Reactivity. What is meant by reactivity? Two different compounds have same functional group and undergo